Hello there and welcome. I'm Peggy, and I certainly hope and pray that you will take a moment, take a deep breath, sit down, and just relax with me and my special guest for a few minutes. We all stay in turmoil and rush here and rush there, and yes, we have a lot of things to accomplish. But I think we need sometimes to just have a time for ourselves. And I thank you for tuning me in today. Destiny Yarbrough is here with me, and we're delighted to have her. She's over here from Atlanta, Georgia, and she is the founder of Daughters of Deliverance and Hope Ministries. And we have all kinds of information to share with you. And I think perhaps we have a chance to just relax and learn something. And I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Bless
It's
you
an
for
honor
coming.
to be here.
I'm so
Thank
glad to
you.
meet
Such
you.
an honor to be with the legend.
But I guess the best thing to start with is the very beginning. What is Daughters of Deliverance and Hope Ministries? And you're in Atlanta.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
So Daughters of Deliverance and Hope Ministries is our ministry that God birthed out of a painful divorce. I went through a divorce with a gentleman who battled with addiction. And several years later, our ministry was basically birthed out of my testimony. We want to see people walking in freedom, set free, delivered from whether it be addiction, bondage, relationships. We just want to see people set free and walking in freedom. And the hope, we want to give hope back to people and let them know that there is hope after addiction. There is hope after divorce.
And I gather that your thrust is mainly toward women.
Yes, it is a women's ministry. My husband is a counselor. I'm happily remarried. I said God gave me double for my trouble. And he is actually a ministerial, he does ministerial counseling and also secular counseling for youth who battle with addiction.
And it is a problem in we sort of, I think, to be comfortable, we just kind of turn away and think, well, that's happening someplace else. It isn't here.
Right.
But it is.
It's everywhere.
And it doesn't matter, you may have a family that is church going and everything as it should be, but it touches many people.
Yes, it does. It does. And I know several people who grew up in Christian homes, and it's been a battle, but God. And he's a God of restoration, and he's a God of hope. So my husband, grew up in a Christian home. My last husband is still in addiction, and then God sent me a husband who's a recovered addict, and he grew up in a Christian home. And thank God for praying mothers and grandmothers, because his family never gave up on him. They just kept pressing in and praying and fasting, and he's been recovered for 8 years.
It touches everybody. I mean, it would be nice to think, well, we have this family and we're intact and we go to church on Sunday, but it's there.
Yes.
It's everywhere in our world.
Yes.
And our young people in school, even in lower grades of school, not just high school, middle school.
Yes, it is. We have to train our children. I have a 15-year-old, and we train him. We have to train up our children.
That's important. You say you train him. How do you do that, and what do you do?
Well, we teach him about addiction. We tell him it takes one sip if you go to a party, because it is in the bloodline. It is generational. And we keep him prayed up. I fast and pray every year on his birthday. He's 15 now. He'll be 16 in August. But we tell him, the dangers, especially when it is in the bloodline, in the family bloodline. You have to, I don't like the word.
You mean that if your father or somebody, your mother or somebody had been in addiction, that is transferred in the genes to the child?
It can be. It can be. It's a generational curse, and it can be transferred. It is in the bloodline. So you have to be cautious and careful, just like what you're marrying into, know what you're marrying into. Are you marrying into a background of addiction, a background of suicide, things like that? So these are conversations that we do have.
So it carries over.
It can carry over, yes.
So you talk to your kids about this.
Yes, and just tell them to be on guard and be, cognizant of things. When you go somewhere and there's peer pressure and someone wants to offer you a taste of alcohol, it takes one taste, one sip, that's it. So we try to have him in that mindset of being cognizant because, it is in the bloodline on his father's
But
side.
even if it isn't, even if that hasn't been in a
Right.
family, these kids today are subjected to all kinds of, I guess you could call it opportunities to do things and
Right,
that maybe a couple of generations ago you wouldn't even have thought about it.
right,
And it's
right,
there.
right. And it seems like now, with all the commercials and everything that you see, especially with media, that it's okay. It's okay. They have all the commercials where everybody having fun, drinking and partying, and that it's acceptable and it's cool,
Yeah.
to be part of the party crowd. And I tell him it's cool just to be home with your family on a Friday night watching a movie, or it's cool to, just be a stand for someone else, take a stand, and let people know that, you don't have to have all that to have fun. You don't have to have all that to have fun.
So you try to help your family in such a way that they can stand up and say, okay, I'm not going there.
Yes.
And they can influence some of their peers, hopefully,
Yes, ma'am.
for the good.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Absolutely. We call it taking a stand.
Okay. And this is your visions, dreams, and destiny. God has called you to be a visionary. Dream your dreams and walk in your destiny. This is your book.
Yes, ma'am.
And what brought you to that? Did you ever think you'd write a book?
It's funny. I journal. I journal a lot,
Okay.
and a lot of what I journaled is in my book. And I woke up one day, and it was like, I need to write a book about all this that is going on. And I reached out to a lady, you may know her, Ann Plotz. She's an author. And I called her and said, I'm thinking about writing a book, because she's written several books. She said, Destiny, you just don't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to write a book. She said, if God put that on your heart, you start writing right now. And she was very encouraging for me in that moment. This was several years ago. And so I took everything from all those journals, some other things, and just kind of started making notes and different sermons that I'd heard that stood out to me, that impacted my life. And so everything that was in that, on those journal notes, is in that book, plus some, with what we went through and my divorce and testimonial and how God brought us through. But God's called us to be a visionary. He wants us to dream our dreams and walk in our purpose, which is our destiny. He's called us to walk in our purpose, and so we need to listen and just follow what He's instructing us to do.
And you really believe that if you are quiet and you listen, that you are guided.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. I am a strong believer in that.
I think that's very important for our young people today.
Yes, it is.
So is this book available?
It is. You can get it on Amazon, Amazon.com.
Okay. And it's called Visions, Dreams, and Destiny by Destiny Yarbrough. And you have a real outreach now. That's an outgrowth of all your experiences.
Yes, ma'am. I always say, we get our promises out of our pain, and taking what we've, gone through and help others.
Well, now, what about these workshops for women? What is that?
So our ministry in 2017 is going to offer workshops for women. We are going to offer different facilitators that come in, understanding the fivefold ministry, how to write a book, how to write a magazine, walking in your prophetic giftings. We have so many gifts, and people, God gives us our gifts and He wants us to use them. But tapping into those gifts, like somebody may say, well, they have an incredible testimony and they want to write a book, but they don't know where to start. So we want to help them to to learn how to do that. And we're going to bring in some people that have written
And it
several
takes
books.
confidence
Yes.
to begin to think, I could do that. A lot of people think, I have a wonderful story to tell, but I could never do that.
Right.
I'm sure you've heard people say that to
Well,
you.
I'm one of those people. I never in a million years thought that I'd have a book, much less be here with you sharing my story. So, we just have to be obedient and listen, and he's going to guide and direct, as you said earlier, and everything will fall into place. I think when we try to do things on our own is when it ends up, I say, getting messy. But when we just sit back and, like you said, be quiet and be still and listen, he does guide our steps, and that's when things start to happen, whether it's in your marriage, your ministry, your family. It's not just about your book. It's all the other things that go along with it. But that's just how I'm a firm believer in that.
Well, this is a beautiful, it's just a little paperback.
Yes, ma'am.
And it would make a nice gift. But they're available.
Yes, ma'am.
Your book is available.
Yes, ma'am.
And obviously it wouldn't be very expensive.
No, and it's an easy read, and if it can touch one person and help that person, it's done its job.
So it spreads.
Yes, ma'am.
Good if you plant that seed.
Seed.
It's and you've learned that.
Oh, yes. I'm a firm believer in sowing seed. Yes, ma'am. Whether if it's just taking someone dinner or going with someone as a support system, like one of my girlfriends that's here with me today. She's sowing seed. She took time out of her day to come and be here with me and ride down here with me from Atlanta. So that's sowing seed.
So those are they're so, what I call them, kind of quiet deeds, because nobody would know about it.
Right.
You don't get awards but it's the little things day by day that we help each other.
Yes.
That's what really makes a difference in our lives.
Yes, I am in total agreement.
We're going to be right back, so don't go away. And we have, of course, more information to share with you. So it's